16 minutes past 1. Young people with no self-belief can find themselves heading down the wrong path, but thanks to a Bedfordshire-based programme, many lives are being transformed. Reactiv8 was founded by Michelle Crook to get young, disengaged people back into learning, education or training. She's here with Conroy Downer. He's a mentor and a former boxer, and Charlene Ellis, who's recently benefited from the programme. Good afternoon to all of you.
Still a boxer.
Good morning.
Still a boxer.
Good morning. It's good afternoon.
Now you're worrying me, Conroy, because I should point out Conroy is a very strapping, remarkable model of a man. I have this really love-hate relationship with boxing. It's quite funny because I hate boxing, and yet I'm often compelled to watch it. For example, the Frock Groves fight of 6-7 weeks ago. I was determined not to watch it, and then I succumbed and watched it, and it was a fantastically brutal, brilliant fight. Often people do have that sort of love-hate feel, don't they?
Yeah, they do, but I think boxers are probably one of the nicest people you're going to meet. You know, the discipline that we learn through the sport, and we're really nice people.
I quite like the soap opera of boxing as well. I quite like all the pre-fight rubbish that can go on. It's all a little bit pantomime, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just to get the attention of the public, really.
And they got it. They got my £15.99, which meant that I watched it that evening. Michelle, let's start with you. You were one of the youngest assistant headmistresses in Bedfordshire. That's quite a feat. How young were you when you became an assistant head?
I think I was probably 28 at the time.
Okay, that is young, because you're going to be at times no more than 10, 11 years older than the people you're having to discipline. But then conversely, that can be to your benefit, can't it?
It's all about creating relationships with the young people. No matter how old the people are, it's about relationship building. If you build a good relationship and be firm and fair, then you get the best out of those people.
I get a little insight into this at home. So it's just sort of the young people. I'm talking about my children. My wife is a psychotherapist, and she's a school counsellor at a very good, but if I say difficult, I'm being a bit unfair, but a challenging inner city school. It's actually a great school, and she loves it there. But as you can imagine, as an inner city school, it has its challenges, to use your word. And my wife, and I think you'd identify with this from what I know about you, is very, very keen not to write people off. Yeah. Often, especially with a school counselling service, they could be the last hope. So by this time, you've got perhaps social involved, perhaps the police involved, and sometimes my wife is the last person to say, hold on a minute, just stop. I know this individual. They are a really good person. Yeah. It's just they're damaged, they've got this situation or that, whatever it may be. And whose mobile phone's on? Is that you, Conroy?
Yes.
Don't worry, you sort that out. And she's very passionate about ensuring that these young people are not jettisoned and rejected, that there is a heart and a root with everyone. Is that very much where you come from?
Absolutely, yes. I believe everyone has the ability to reach their potential and are often written off by society. I'm very much of the inclusive nature and want to instill some self-belief in everyone that I work with. Everybody has the ability to achieve, and it's just their own mindset. It's challenging their mindset, their own perception, and reinstilling that self-belief with them.
So what are these challenges that you encountered when you're an assistant head, that my wife encounters in her counselling services at the school?
Home life, parents, lack of parenting. I'm going to be controversial because I actually do believe it starts at home.
You're tutting there, Charlene. Yeah. Why are you tutting? Come a little bit closer to the microphone. Why are you tutting at that comment?
I don't think...
Sorry, Charlene. What I need you to do is just be nice and in front of that. There we go. Okay. Then I can hear you perfectly.
I don't believe it starts just from home. I think it's, playing out with different friends, the community, the area you're living in. I think there's lots of different factors of how a young person turns the way they turn.
Getting into the wrong crowd is a massive thing and a massive influence for people aged between 12 and 17.
And it scares the life out of me as a dad.
When they get, absolutely, you just don't know if they fall into the wrong crowd, what they can do. And peer pressure is an amazing thing at that age.
I wonder also, Conroy, when I look at when I'm about 18 years older than you, so you're pretty well a generation behind me. And although I may be sort of looking at this through rose-tinted specs, I remember when I was a teenager that there were less things to wind me up and less things to be distracted by. So we weren't in the smartphone generation. We didn't have PlayStations and Xboxes. We didn't have expense around us. We actually, I think, and forgive me, Michelle, if I'm being a bit rose-tinted, but it was actually a little bit simpler. It's part of the problem that you're just surrounded by so much stimulation and so much temptation.
Yes, it is. And I also think within school, I do believe they should do more in school as well, because I think some of the lads who are working with Michelle at the moment, a lot of them they've been told that they're not going to amount to nothing in school, so they carry that persona all the way through up until adulthood. And I think they just have that in the back of their mind, so they just don't want to try to achieve anything.
Once young people they kind of get pigeonholed, the joker of the class, the bully, the bully, the idiot, that kind of thing. And when you become labelled, or once people become labelled, they find it hard to even get out of that box themselves.
And you kind of act up to that label,
play to that image.
That's what I was about to say. You become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Absolutely. Don't you? If someone's going to label you at an age where, I remember, again, when I was 14, 15, you'll be relieved to know I was very different back then, because thankfully I've done some growing up in the intervening years. But it's bad enough labelling an adult. Like, if you walk in here, Michelle, and I label you, that's rude. But to label a 13, 14-year-old when they're still developing, when they're still finding their feet, working out what they like, what they don't like.
Working out who they are.
Making their mistakes as well.
Guys, there's no such thing in failing. Yeah. Failing is first attempt in learning.
I think when kids fail at a young age, they don't get that encouragement to try to do better. Instead of getting encouraged to do better, they get encouraged to keep doing that.
And they don't have to get up and go as they should. They get knocked down, and me, I'm a bouncer, I'll get back up. And I think what Michelle's doing, what Reactiv8 is all about, what MFT's doing also.
What's MFT?
Military training fitness.
Okay.
And we're helping with affirmations, positive thinking, team building. So we're building up basically to reactivate the nation. That's the whole goal.
I wonder, Conroy, when we talk about failure, whether actually we're mistaking failure for the natural path of making mistakes. Because I know you'll all be surprised to know this, but I have made one or two mistakes in my life. Now, don't be shocked at this. But no, we all make mistakes, and mistakes are part of.
We're meant to make mistakes.
We're built to build
ourselves up.
And do you think that what then happens is that we then label those mistakes as failure, when in fact all they are just part of growing up?
Exactly.
Learning curves, aren't they?
I've made a few of those.
Well, we're going to talk about possible mistakes that you might have made, all of you might have made in your recent lives, as we carry on talking about this after 1:30. It's certainly a subject which we, as you said, you were getting controversial there, Michelle, was a subject that we can be very passionate about, because ultimately there's a whole generation of young people here who do need our support and need our help, don't they?
Absolutely. And that's what we want to do. We've got another programme starting in September for 19 to 29-year-olds working in Luton who are currently unemployed, have no direction, have no motivation, and we're trying to recruit for that now. So if you are listening and feel you're unmotivated, lack direction and don't have a job, then please do get in touch with us.
We will give your full contact details out definitely before you leave, before 2 o'clock. This is what I enjoy about this programme. It's lunchtime, we're sitting around a table, chewing the fat, trying to put the world to rights, meeting some very inspirational young people. Michelle Crook, who has created Reactiv8. It's a programme to help young and disengaged children. Conroy, who's a mentor, and Charlene, who's benefited from their services too.